Welcome back. And in this segment of our show, we are going to talk about the leadership and the social dynamic and how to cooperate, have a healthy and fruitful and productive work environment. That would be our topic of discussion with our dear guest in the studio, Mr. Abdou Magdi. He is an executive coach. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Well, good morning. Well, definitely, first of all, to be able to develop the human capacity, we have to identify the different personality patterns and how to approach it. So how can that be assessed?
Yes, definitely. I think the objective of every organization and every team and every project is to make the best utilization of everyone into achieving a specific objective. And I think one of the difficult challenges there is understanding what people actually want out of the experience, their preferences in terms of communication, and also how to kind of get them to work together to achieve that objective. So this is usually a kind of a big challenge, and sometimes, unfortunately, it's an unspoken off challenge for organizations in how to get this social dynamics component going. So, and definitely there is some times in which that a lot of work environment, actually research shows that there is a huge percentage in which that employees are very much unsatisfied, they are losing energy, they are not excited to go to work, and that sometimes is a challenge of not properly understanding and addressing different personality types and not understanding social dynamics at the level of complexity requires to get things going.
Yes. Dr. Abdou, from your point of view, of course, there are different types of personalities that do exist in a group. How do they interact and how should they interact together in order to achieve the required objective?
That's a very good question. I think that's actually the core of understanding and working with social dynamics. I think we have different personality archetypes that actually built around everyone's approach in life and almost philosophy. So as we understand, if we imagine any project or organization as a bus, which is one of the famous ways and the easiest ways to comprehend that, we're going to be seeing the ones who are in the leadership. They are the ones who are leading the bus. They have the map. They have the understanding. They understand the objectives. They have the strong character in kind of leading that force. And these are the alphas. So the alphas are the have abilities in decision making. They voice their opinions, and basically they are strong leaders who push things further. Afterwards, we're going to find betas who are not necessarily as dominant in terms of their behavior and their psychology, but rather they are fine with following the leader, and for them it becomes more about a social experience other than about the objective itself. And we have other rules, but I think the last rule that we look at are the sigmas, where basically they are more like the alphas, but they are introverted. So other than being in the front of the bus, they choose to be at the back of the bus, and they focus on observing what's going on, and they prefer to only interfere once they can actually bring something positive to the table. So understanding these different personality types, in the middle we can see people who are quite separated or isolated. They do not have interest in doing any influence, but rather they are happy to be kind of provided with what they need to survive and continue being part of the group. So we would actually find from that, when it comes to a matter of leadership and moving things forward, we have the alphas at the front and we have the sigmas at the back of the bus, who are basically the alphas are, if things are going very well, then the alphas would actually be doing 100% of the work. But by then, if things are not really going properly, by then the sigmas might actually feel obligated to interfere with the group dynamics.
Yeah.
Now, definitely, when we talk about group work, that needs cohesion. Now, definitely, each of us is different from the others, so definitely sometimes there'll be friction or disagreements. So how can we create cohesion within the group to create this group dynamics that you were talking about?
Yes, I think human society agreed on having a code of conduct when it comes to interactions like this. So there is no other solution other than for people to talk together and to specify what are the principles upon which we want to move forward. And that has to be an open sharing process in which everybody really opens up and writes down what they really care for. And the challenge with that is not that this exercise does not take place, because usually it takes place in all organizations and projects. But by then, it becomes a responsibility of the entity that's actually controlling this setup is to maintain no breaking of these rules from anybody. So an organization that's actually managing this environment should be very decisive and sharp in terms of tracking these principles, and to treat everyone equally in terms of violating or probably needing to be coached on how to adhere to that. So in an environment, for example, we say that our principle is trust.
Yeah.
It's not possible for it to be broken inside the circle and then this is not being addressed.
Yes, indeed.
So if we say that this is about trust, then if trust is broken, we need to say that trust was broken and we're sorry, and then we're not going to do this again, and we move forward. But in case trust is broken and you do not go there and say that trust is not broken, this is not addressed properly and directly in the same way it was made, that actually creates a lot of tension, and that creates possibly a lot of depression and a lot of unexpressed feelings, and by then people do not have the energy or the motives to contribute equally to the group.
Mr. Abdu, what could be the negative scenarios that could occur if we cannot maintain the cohesion inside the group and the dynamics inside the group of the teamwork?
Yeah, I think like the first thing that gets lost is the objective, which is basically why are we here? Because if we look at a group that's working together, they have a specific objective, and probably everyone would have a different objective from their perspective, but by then there has to be a properly defined objective for the whole group. And basically what should be done is that everyone is contributing in a way for this final objective to be reached. So getting back to your question, when it comes to what needs to be done, the question was about what needs to be done to maintain this looking towards the objective. I think that getting back to what was written in terms of the code of conduct and the interference from this organization is vital, because if we don't do this, we're going to have loss of energy. We're going to have people who are possibly depressed. We're going to have some abuse and harassment at the workplace. And we're going to get into, because also understanding that the power dynamic within the group is there are actually some very powerful people who are not bringing their power to the group. And sometimes if these people really understand that things are not going well and they're going to bring that in a way that's not going to be convenient to everybody. So sometimes we have a lone wolf scenario in which that the whole group is being punished because we're not adhering to that. And I think we have a lot of creative examples, like in the movies. There is a movie called Law Abiding Citizen, the movie called The Rock, even like Scent of a Woman. These are all movies that discuss that people with like a Sigma personality type, they are put in an environment where the law is being broken and this not being addressed, and then the situation goes totally dramatic.
Indeed.
So understanding that this would be the fault of the authority or the organization, that they are not addressing things explicitly. Because if they address things explicitly and they say that this is a code of conduct, we're going to have to follow it equally, by then there will be no friction. People are going to be happy, energetic, and moving forward. And usually problems happen when the organization or the leader are not identifying that and expressing it openly.
Now, you've classified the work group in alpha, beta, up to sigma, and that some are doers and some are not. But then how can we create incentive? Because definitely, if you're a sigma individual or if you're a gamma one, you might not feel that you have a leadership perspective, so maybe you wouldn't be as incentives to give your best. So how can we bring the best out of everybody so that eventually everybody, more or less, of course it's difficult to have everyone alpha, but at least everybody will be really effective and energetic?
Exactly. I think part of the question is that not actually everyone wants to be alpha, because there is, like for example, there is a social cost to being an alpha in terms of maintaining lots of social connections and social relationships, and not everyone is willing to make such an investment. But I think it comes back to the responsibility of who is holding the floor, the organization or the leadership that's holding the floor. They should be actually introducing lots of exercises and games that allow people to identify their different personality types, and also understanding that as a group work together, this happens naturally. So like if the organization in which this exercise is taking place is not intelligent enough and aware enough and doing like enough work in identifying how can we like get people to openly share about their preferences, their personality types, what they want out of the experience. There are many exercises in which this could be done, and it becomes necessary for these exercises to take place by then.
To what extent the individuals here in the group could influence the role, and they have their own way of changing their status?
Yeah, okay, I think like that's more of a leadership question, because as we said that like alpha seems to be like the most desired status, and accordingly there would seem to be a lot of competition around who's going to get into the leadership, which actually happens across all organizations. So all existing organizations, there is usually different like political struggles that goes around who actually influence the outcomes. And I think like one of these one of these necessary ingredients for individuals to also understand is that they have to accept the rules. They have to accept that this is my things, and this is the way that I would like things to be done, and they would actually communicate this to others. So for example, if I see myself as an expert who does not want to lead, I would actually go to the group, tell them that, guys, I have a technical expertise, I have no interest in leading that, but rather I would like to contribute my expertise in a way that's most convenient to others. So being open and expressing the way things work for you would possibly be like one of the best ways for this to go on. Also understanding that there is a cycle, because people go through different experiences, and with these experiences, some people could change their perception. So some current sigmas could, for example, if we can see someone who's like 55, 60 years old, who is like an advisory board member of an organization. So as an advisory board member, he provides expertise to the leadership, but he's not actually in the leadership.
Yeah.
There are different changes that happen with age, with experience, and I think it's important to identify and understand how can we move on and move forward while getting all these issues addressed and avoiding negative scenarios that might evolve from lack of understanding and lack of addressing things properly.
So how can we detect whether we're on the right track or not?
Yeah, I think there are like analytical ways to do that in terms of like surveys and things like that. But the best way is that for the people in the leadership is to actually walk in between the teams. Is because like if they show up and say that, how was your weekend? Were you enjoying your time? Do you feel energized? If we see that the energy in the room is low, that means there is something wrong going on. So direct personal interactions become very necessary for to understand and identify that there is something might be going wrong, and by then they would introduce the necessary actions to fix that.
Yeah, but how, Mr. Abdu, we can develop the awareness of the leadership in order to feel that and to be aware that there is actually a negative energy. No, I should boost the morale of the employees. Not everyone and not every leadership is aware of that.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very big problem, because also we have different types of institutions and organizations, and the leaders have different educational backgrounds. So not all of them understand that like what's going on within the organization. They have a problem, they do not understand what's going on or how to fix it. So it becomes necessary for them to do the actual efforts, to seek consultants, to actually be brought in and provide them with the actual insights into what's going on and how to fix it. And they have to also be flexible in taking this feedback, because sometimes it's very difficult for people in the leadership to say that we do not know. So they have to reach that there is a problem here and we do not know and we need help in fixing that. So for them to confess to that and address it, that becomes necessary for like the objective and the group to move forward.
Indeed. Dr. Abdu Magdi, our executive coach, thank you very much for being our guest for today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of Breakfast Show. But first of all, I'd like to thank my colleague Mahesti Rabia. Thank you very much, Mahesti.
Thank you very much, Rasha.
Thank you very much, and have a good day, everyone.